checkbox. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the checkbox. It's very important. That's why I've devoted a whole video to it. So the checkbox is yet a different type of component in Android Studio. It is a kind of a button. It just accepts two positions, checked or unchecked. And it's often used as a component while developing Android applications, so we need to talk about it. Let's say, for example, that we want to develop a survey application or even a note-taking application. We'll pretty much want to use that checkbox, right? So let's go to Android Studio and see it in practice before we lose any more time. So we have an earlier Android project from before, yes, and we will continue to build on this project. And what I'm going to do is add two checkboxes to this project. And the checkbox is under the buttons section in the palette window. And I'll just drag two checkboxes and drop them here. Now, what should we do with these checkboxes? Okay, so let's say, for example, asking for the gender of the user, right? So we'll have two checkboxes. One is for male, second one is female. Whichever one the user checks, we will write its gender into the text view here. And let's look at some of the features of the checkboxes. So we can define its height and width from here. And I can change the layout width from the match parent to the wrap content. And now its width is wrap content, but it's placed in the center, right? So that's because we defined gravity of the linear layout center horizontal. So let's do the same for the second checkbox. Okay, so now the two of them are placed in the center. So let's ask a question to the user. And for that, I will need to change the text of the text view and write what is your gender. And then the user will give an answer to this question, male or female for now. This is just an example. And I will change the text of the first text box to male and the text of the second box to female. All right, so what do you suppose we can do in here with these checkboxes? First off, let's define the default position for the checkbox from here. We can choose checked or unchecked as a default. And let's continue. So I'll change the text color of the checkbox to white. And I'll do the same for the second checkbox. And let's make the layout margin from the top 10 dp for the first checkbox. Yeah, do the same for the second. If user checks male, text of the text view will change to male. And if user checks female, text of the text view will change to female. Okay, so now we'll need to give an ID to these checkboxes. So I will give the ID checkbox male for first checkbox and checkbox female for the second. Okay, so now we got to go to the Java side. And I'll go to the main activity. Okay, so first up on the Java side is define the checkboxes. So I will write right here, checkbox. And, you know, if I click here, it will import the checkbox class. But I don't want to do that, so don't get ahead of me. So before the import checkbox, it's red. So I want to show you yet another import method. So when the checkbox is red, you can see a small lamp here. You see that? When I click this lamp, I can see the import class option. So I'll click the import class option and it will import the checkbox class. And that way I can put names to these checkboxes, male and female. So these names are my choice. Of course, you can give the names to be whatever you want. And now I need to assign these IDs to these checkboxes. And I will write male equals find view by ID r.id.checkbox male. And for the second checkbox, female equals find view by ID r.id.checkbox female. Then after that, I'm going to add a click listener to the male. So when the user clicks the checkbox, it will do these operations. And I'll write them here. Male.set on click listener, new view on click listener. So now I can write my codes inside the onClick method. And now there are two options for the male checkbox, checked or unchecked. And I will write if male dot is checked. This will control the checkbox is checked or unchecked. So if it is checked, it will return true. And if it's unchecked, it will return false. Okay, so quiz time. If it's checked, what's going to happen? I want to write male to the text view. So I will write result.setText male. Now, why did I write result? Because we gave result to the text view as the name from before. So if it's unchecked, I will write this question again, and I will write else, and then inside the brackets, result.setText. What is your gender? And I can do the same thing for the female. Female.set on click listener, new view on click listener, and inside the onClick method, if female is checked, result.setText female. And if female is unchecked, result.setText and question again, what is your gender? Right? So now that I break it down, it's pretty simple, right? So let's run it and see what happens. So the application is opening and it's fully open, and you see if I check male, text of the text view is changing to male. Now let's uncheck male. Text of the text view is changing to the question again. And if I check female, text of text view is changing to female. And if I uncheck female, text of the text view is changing to the question again. But I don't know if you see, we seem to have a problem here. What if I check both of them, right? So for this example, I really don't want to let the user check both of them. So what am I going to do? How do I avoid this? We're going to need to write some extra code. So I'm going to do this here. If male is checked, female must be unchecked. So I'll write female dot set checked false. And then this code defines the position of the checkbox. If it's true, checkbox will be checked. If it's false, checkbox will be unchecked. So with this code, if the male is checked, female will be unchecked. And I will do the same for the second checkbox, right? So this time I'm going to write male.setCheckedFalse. If female is checked, the male will be unchecked. So let's run it again just to make sure. Okay, so there you go. It's working now. So when I check male, female is unchecked. When I check female, male is unchecked. Okay, so I think that's enough for this video, don't you? See you on the other side. We got another video coming up. Radio buttons. Hello, everyone. I want to talk to you a little bit about radio buttons for this video. Radio buttons are similar to checkboxes that we spoke about in the last video. Radio buttons are inside a group, and the user can choose one option from this group, one option only. So radio buttons are separate from checkboxes with this feature, right? So, for example, you can use radio buttons on a test application, but there's only one answer. The user can choose only one option from the answer. Yeah? You can use radio buttons to get information from the user, sort of like checkboxes. But the checkbox, there's two options for one checkbox, right? It's either checked or unchecked. But for radio buttons, the user has to choose one option from the group. Also, one option is chosen by default. So let's go into Android Studio and see it in practice. All right, so we had a project from the last video. Let's continue on that one. And the radio buttons are under the buttons section. But before we add radio buttons, we will need to add a radio group. And I'll choose radio group from here. Just drag it into the text view. And now we can add radio buttons under the radio group. And I'll add 3 radio buttons here. And now you can see radio buttons, but the other components cannot be seen. So let's check the layout width and the height of the radio buttons. All right, so you can see here that the layout width and height, the radio buttons are wrap content. So we should see the other components normally, but if you check the layout height of the radio group, then you can see it is match parent. So because of this, we cannot see the other components. So let's change it to wrap content, and everything's fine. Now, when I choose wrap content for layout width, the radio buttons will take their place center horizontally. Why? Because we chose gravity of the linear layout center horizontal from before. So what do you suppose we can do with these radio buttons? All right, let's make an example of this. I will give these radio buttons some colors. And when the user chooses a color from the option and clicks the OK button, the background of the main activity color will change to whatever the chosen color is. So let's write the text of the first radio button, green. And for the second one, I'll just write in red. For the last radio button, I'll write yellow. And then when the user clicks OK, the background will change. So let's change the text color of the radio buttons to white. And I can do that from here. Also, I need to give an ID to these radio buttons. So for the first radio button, I'll make the radio button green as an ID. For the second one, I will write radio button red. And for the third one, I'll just write in radio button yellow. Now also, I will define the first radio button to be chosen as a default. And I can do that from here. and I clicked checked option. So after we finish the design, we can then go to the Java side. Now, first of all, we will need to define these radio buttons and the radio group here. And I'll write radio group and give a name, and we'll just call it radio group. And then after that, I'll need to define the radio buttons. So I'll just write in radio button green. When I write radio button, Android Studio imports the necessary class. And then I'll put red for the second button, yellow for the third radio button, and then after that, okay, so I'll need to define IDs for these radio buttons and the radio group. Write in radio group equals find view by ID. But before we continue, I will need to give an ID to the radio group. So we'll go back to the XML page and give it an ID here. And I gave group as the ID. So now I can write r.id.group. And then here, green equals find view by ID r.id.radio button green. And for the red one, red equals find view by ID r.id.radio button red. And lastly, for the yellow, yellow equals find view by ID r.id.radio button yellow. Great. So we have now defined our radio buttons. Okay, so what do you want to do after that? So when the user chooses a color and clicks OK, the color of the layout will change, right? Now to do this, I will add a click listener to the OK button. So we've already defined the OK button here. So I will write here OK.set on click listener, new view on click listener. And then inside the onClick method, I will write my conditions. If green dot is checked, and again, before I continue, I will need to give an ID to the linear layout. And I will give linear as the ID. And also I'll need to define this linear layout on the Java side. And I'll write that here, linear layout. And inside the create method, layout equals find view by ID r.id.linear. And now I can change the background color using layout. So I'm going to write here inside the brackets, layout.set background color, and then inside the parenthesis, color.green. And of course, that's my first condition. If the user chooses the green radio button, background color will be green. And then after that, I can write the second condition. Else if red dot is checked, layout dot set background color, color dot red. And for the third condition, else if yellow dot is checked, layout dot set background color, color dot yellow. So far, so good. So let's run it and see if it's working or not. Application opens. So when the green radio button is selected, click OK. Background color is changed to green. And now I'll choose red and click OK. Uh-oh, the background color is red. Shall we go 3 for 3? I choose yellow and the background is yellow. Now, you should see that I can only choose one option on these radio buttons, right? So pretty much the use of radio buttons is easy. And again, I think it's enough for this video. See you in the next one. Toggle button. Hello, everyone. We're going to speak about toggle buttons in this video. The toggle button gives us two options. Well, technically, it gives two options to the user. It will be on or off. That's the position of a toggle button. The thing is, you define what needs to be done whenever the user turns the toggle button to the on position. It is easy to use, so we'll go to Android Studio and we'll give it a go, see it in practice, because you know what? Time is running. Okay, so we had a project before. Let's continue this project, and we will add a toggle button. Now, you can see the toggle button under the button section. And I'll just drag a toggle button and drop it under the image view. The layout width of the toggle button is match parent. I'll change it to wrap content. And it's centered horizontally. Now, you know that because the gravity of the linear layout is center horizontally. And now the toggle button will basically have two positions, two options, if you will. I will define what will happen in the on position as well as in the off position. So, what can we make it do when it takes the on position? For example, when it's flipped on, we can make it hide this image, and when it's flipped off, we can show the image again. Also, I'm going to want to change the text of the text view to images hidden when toggle button is in the on position. Okay, so after that, I will change the text of the text view to image is shown when toggle button is in the off position. So let's do this. Before we start, we can change the text of the toggle button. Where do I do that? Well, you know that we've all changed all of the text of the buttons from text attributes, but we're not going to do that for this toggle button. There's another text attribute, and it is text off and text on. Pretty handy. So we will define a text in the text off section when the position of the toggle button is off. And also we can define a text when the position of the toggle button is on. And I will write hide image for the text off and show image for text on. So also we're going to need to give a name to this ID and to this toggle button. In other words, we need to give it an ID. So I will give toggle button show as an ID. So now I can go to the Java code section. Now, first of all, I will need to define this toggle button on the Java side. I will write toggle button and toggle button again. Now, of course, you can give it another name if you want to, but then after that, we will define its ID inside the onCreate method. And I will write here toggle button equals find view by ID, and inside the parenthesis r.id.toggle button show. And in order to do the operations on the toggle button, I need to add a listener. Now, normally I would just add a click listener, but for a toggle button, I will add checked change listener. So I'll write it here. Toggle button dot set on checked change listener and new component button dot on checked change listener. And I will write my code inside the onChecked change method. So when the checked position of the button is changed, the listener will detect this change and then apply the codes that I wrote here. Now it can take two positions, of course, checked or unchecked, or on or off. So it means that when the toggle button is on, it takes the checked, and the toggle button is off, it takes the unchecked position. So I'll just write it here that if it's checked, and inside the brackets, I will hide image. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, if you remember correctly, or if I remember correctly, we defined the image view here before, and its name was image. So I will write here image.setVisibility view.invisible. Now also I will want to change the text of the text view. We have defined text view here already, and its name was, you remember, don't rewind, result. So I'll just write it here, result.set text image is hidden. Okay? So after that, we can write the else condition. So that means that when the toggle button takes the off position again, I will write here image.setVisibility view.visible. Also, result.set text image is shown. Okay, so let's run it and see if it's working or not. And now the application's open. So, okay, so you see here on the toggle button, the text is hide image. When I click the toggle button, image is hidden and text of the text view is changed. Cool. Also, the text of the toggle button is changed. So when I click it again, the image is shown and text of the text view changed again. Also, the text of the toggle button is changed to the hide image. So that's, I don't know, I think it's easy. I hope that you think it's easy too. But in any event, it is enough for this particular video. I've got another one coming up, so see you then. Spinner. Hello, everyone. Today, I want to speak to you about Spinner in this video. Spinner is an Android component that we use in Android application development. Spinner opens a list, and then the user can choose an item from the list. So when the user selects an item from the list, some operations can start by choosing the selection. So why don't we go to Android Studio and get to work and do some practice? All right, so remember we had a project before. We'll just continue with the project so that we can see the progress on the build. And we're going to do an example in this video. So let's set up the example project just like this. There's a list of countries. And when the user selects a country from the list, the country name will be written here on the text view. So for example, if I want to select Germany, then text view will display Germany. If I select the Netherlands, on the text view, it will write Netherlands. Right, so this is how Spinner works, basically. So why don't we start to do this in the application? So first of all, we need a spinner. But before I add Spinner here, I want to add a new horizontal linear layout here. And I added this layout under the image view. I'll add Spinner under this layout, and Spinner is under the container section. Also, I'll add a text view. So this text view will display and explain what the user will do with this spinner. And you see that the other components are not seen. And here I can change the height of the new linear layout to the wrap content. And now you can see the other components. So also, I want to change the width of the spinner to wrap content. And now we have a text view and a spinner. So I'll change the text of the text view. I will write it here to select a country. I'll also change the text color of text view to white. Okay, so now we need to give an ID to the spinner. All I do is write spinner country. And then after that, I just need to fill in the spinner. Now to fill in the spinner, I will create an array. I'll do this under the values folder in the strings XML file. I'll just open the strings XML file and write here string array. Now I need to give a name to this array. The name could be, I don't know, countries. And I will write between the string arrays items. I'll write an item here. And I will write the country names between two item XML code. So every item is an element of the array. All right. So the first country should be England. Second is Netherlands. Third is Belgium. Fourth is Germany. And fifth is Finland. Okay, so now we have 5 items inside the countries array. All right, so the spinner is ready, and also the array is ready. So now we can go over to the Java side. So first, I'll define spinner. I'll just write here spinner. Also, the name could be spinner again, doesn't matter. Well, I mean, for me it does because I like clarity. And then inside the onCreate method, spinner equals find new by idr.id.spinner country. All right, so now I need to take a moment to explain a very important bit here. We have a spinner and we have an array. To transfer information from the array to the spinner, I'll need to create an adapter. So in this case, what is an adapter? So let me just show you with a picture, because it's very important. I want you to have a look at this in detail. We will use the adapter in some of the other components as well. So now we're going to use this adapter for the spinner, but we'll also use it for the list view and the grid view for some of the next videos. So we will call the adapter, and then what makes a connection between a data set and a view. In this example, the data set is array list and the view is spinner. Then we need to create an adapter between the array list and spinner. And I'll just do this in the main activity using Java code. So I'll write here array adapter, and its name is adapter. And I'm going to define this adapter inside the onCreate method. So here, the adapter equals array adapter.create from resources. Now I need to define 3 parameters in here. First is context. And I will write here. All right, that's right. So this means that this adapter will work in this class. The second parameter is array ID. And I'll write r.array.countries. And I'll define array ID to the adapter. Now the third one is the spinner layout. I need to specify how each item looks inside the spinner. So I'll write android.r.layout.simpleSpinnerItem. So now I need to specify the drop-down layout. I'll write adapter.set drop-down view resource. And then inside the parenthesis, android.r.layout.simpleSpinner drop-down item. And now the adapter's ready. I'll just need to assign this adapter to the spinner. How do you do that? I will just write spinner.setAdapter and adapter. So now these codes will fill in the spinner with the countries array. Now, let's check it just to make sure that we have done this so far so good. You with me? Okay, so the application is open. And in the text view, writing select a country, spinner filled in with the country names. So what have we done up until this point? We have created a spinner and a data set, and then we have connected the spinner and the data set using the array adapter. And then after that, we needed to do one more thing. When the user selects a country from the spinner, the name of the country should be written in the text view. So let's continue. I'll need to add a listener to the spinner. And this listener is set on item selected listener. And inside the parenthesis, new adapter view dot on item selected listener. So when I write this code, two methods are created by Android Studio. First one is on item selected. The other one is on nothing selected. So I'll write my codes here. When the user selects an item from the spinner, this method will work. And I will write here parent dot get item at position. And inside the parenthesis, position. Okay, so now what will this code do? It will take the text of the item in the selected position. And then after that, I will assign this text to a new string. So I've created a new string, and its name is country. And lastly, I will write result.setText and country. And now this code will get the country name and write it on the text view. All right, so let's run it again and look. Oh, I get excited, I know. Okay, so the application is open, and when I select Netherlands on the text view, it will write Netherlands. And when I select Germany, it will write Germany on text view. And which item I select from here, it will write the name of the item onto the text view. And that's the way the spinner works. So I think that's plenty for this video. I will see you next video. Toast message. Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about toast messages. And before you pick up that drink, listen to me. The toast message is used to show short time information to the user. So in other words, let's say that when a user clicks a button or opens a new window, or you want to give some kind of information to the user, that's when you use the toast message. So let's go to Android Studio and see it in practice before we lose any more time. You can pick up that drink now. All right, so you know that we have a project that we've been working on, so let's continue working on this project. But before we start, let me just show you a toast message. So you see here when I click the OK button, a toast message displays. And the message is, this is a toast message. So after a while, the toast message disappears. You can show this toast message whenever you want. I display it whenever the user clicks the OK button, but you can display it when the user, I don't know, clicks an image or downloads something. So why don't we look at how to actually do it? So displaying the toast message is pretty simple. We don't have to do anything on the design page. We'll do it just right here on the main directory.java page. So what I want is when the user clicks the OK button, the toast message will be displayed, right? So I'll just add a click listener to the OK button. And I defined the OK button before. You can see it here. And I'll just write inside the onCreate method, OK.set on click listener and new view on click listener. And after that, inside the onClick method, toast.makeText. And after makeText, it will get 3 parameters. The first one is getApplicationContext. Second one is message, and I will write a message inside the quotation marks. So what I write inside the quotation marks will be shown as a message. Message is, this is a toast message. Now the last parameter is how long the toast message is shown for. There are basically 2 options here, toast.long and toast.short. So I'll just select the first one, and then after the parenthesis, I will write .show. And guess what? That's it. Your toast message is now ready. So why don't we run it and see? The application's open, and when I click OK, the toast message displays. And then after a while, it's gone. So I think that pretty much covers the toast message. I'll see you in the next video. Snack bar message. Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about the snack bar message. Now, okay, before you start going to the obvious, like I wanted to, the snack bar message is a message method to, well, impart information, not wisdom, just information to the user. So it kind of looks like a toast message, but it's a little different. So it's displayed at the bottom of the device screen, and it has a close button in order to close the message whenever the user wants. So let's have a look at it in Android Studio. And of course, you know by now that we have an Android project here, and I'll just continue building this project. But before we start to create the snack bar message, I want to show you how it's going to work. So when I click the OK button, it'll display on the bottom of the screen, and when I click the close button, it will close, right? So in here, this is the message that is what we call the snack bar message. So you can give a message to the user here. You can see the difference between the toast message and the snack bar message here. So in the toast message, the message is shown, and after a while it disappears. Also, the user cannot close the toast message. But in the snack bar message, the user can close the message whenever the user wants. All right, so let's create a snack bar message. It's pretty similar to the toast message. There's not much on the design page, and we will create it on the Java side. So what will we do? Okay, so let's say that when the user clicks the OK button, the snack bar message will display. And to do this, I'll just add a click listener to the OK button. All right, so after this, we need to do one more thing. We need to define where we will show this snack bar message. And let's just show it on the main activity layout and on the linear layout. So I'll need to define the linear layout on the Java side. Now to do this, I'll need to give an ID to the linear layout. Now, of course, I've done this before, and the ID is linear. But also, I define linear layout on the Java side with this ID, and its name is linear layout. Okay, so after I do that, I'm ready to create the snack bar message. And what will I write here? OK.set on click listener, new view on click listener, and I will create a snack bar message inside the onClick method, and I'll just write snackbar.make. It'll take 3 parameters inside the parentheses. So let's see, for the first one, that's where I will show this message. And I want to show it in a linear layout. So I will write here linear layout. The second one is message. So I will write my message inside the quotation marks. The message is, how about this is a snack bar message. And the third one is how much time the message will be displayed for. So here it gives you 3 alternatives: long, short, and indefinite. So in the long and short, the message will disappear after a while. But in the indefinite, the message will not disappear until the user closes it. All right, so I will choose indefinite. And then after that, I just write .setAction. Now, this also accepts 2 parameters. The first one is text of the close button. And let's just give it some text for the close button. And I'll write here close, but you can, of course, write whatever you want. And the second is click listener. Now, I'll need to define a new click listener, because when the user clicks the close button, the snack bar message needs to be closed. So when I add click listener, Android Studio understands this is for close snack bar message. And I don't need to write anything inside the click listener. And then after that, I will add here.show. And that should do it. Snack bar message is now ready, so let's run it. Okay, so the application opens, and I'll click the OK button, and the snack bar message is displayed. And then when I click the close button, the snack bar message disappears. So let's see what happens if I choose snackbar.length short. Let's run it again. So this time when I click the OK button, the snack bar message displayed, and then after a little while it disappeared itself. So this is how snack bar message works, and I think it's enough for this video. So I will see you in the next one. Dialog messages. Hello everyone. This is the video where we're going to talk about dialog messages. So a dialog message is another message type to give information to the user. Now, of course, unlike the other messages, the user interacts with the dialog message. So in the dialog message, a small window opens, and the user is informed. And then after the information, the user decides what's going to happen next. So you can see how the dialog message, how it's going to work in a lot of different applications. You probably already recognize it. Let's say, for example, if you want to delete something, a dialog message opens and then asks you, hey, do you really want to delete this? And then after that, if you really want to delete it, you can click yes. Or if you don't want to delete it, you can click no. Another example could be if you want to close an application. A dialog message is shown, and then after that, you can choose to close it or not. So dialog messages are probably one of the most used messages, so why don't we just get to it and open up Android Studio and see how to create it. Now, of course, you know that here we are back in our project, and we will continue to build it. And this is what we'll do. So we have a button here. Its text is delete text of text view. And also we have a text view here. So when I click this button, it will show me a dialog message before it deletes the text. So then after that, if I click yes, it will delete the text. If I click no, it will not delete the text. Now before we start, I just want to show you what it will look like. Okay, can you see? When I click the delete button, it's asking me, do you want to delete text? And there are two options, yes and no. And when I click no, it disappears. When I click yes, it's deleted. So, let's create it. So we create dialog messages on the Java side. So where will I write my code? When I click the delete button, I want to create a dialog message. And this is the delete button. We defined it before. Its name is OK. So I added a click listener to this OK button. So now I can create a dialog message inside the click listener. I'll write a method. Its name is show dialog message. And I will call this method here. But I'm going to write this method below because I don't want to mess in the onClick method, right? So I can do it in two ways. First one is I can write this method myself here. The second way is I can click this red lamp and choose create this method. So after that, I'll need to choose the main activity here. And it created this method automatically. So now I will create a dialog message in here inside this method. Name of the dialog message is alert dialog. Okay? And then I'll write here alert dialog.builder. And after that, I'll need to give a name to this alert dialog message. And I'll write alert dialog equals new alert dialog builder. And I'll write inside parenthesis. So when I wrote this here, I defined the context. So it will work on this activity. So I created a dialog message and give it a name, alert dialog. Okay, so now I need to define its features. So I'll write here alert dialog dot set title. And then whatever I write here will be shown as a title. And you can see that here. Delete is the title. So now I need to define this title, and I will write inside the quotation marks, delete. Okay, so I'll continue. I write here dot set message, and I will write here my message that I want to show to the user. You can see here, message. Message is, do you want to delete text? Okay, so far so good. So after the message, I will define the yes and no button. And how will I define these buttons? Write this here. Set negative button. Negative button is no. So now I need to define the text of the button. I will write inside the quotation marks, no. And then after that, I need to add a listener to this no button. Because when the user clicks no, it needs to sense that and trigger some operations. So I will write after the comma, new dialog interface dot on click listener. So now when the user clicks on no, I'll write down what I want it to do. Also, I need to define the yes button. So I can just write that here, dot set positive button, and inside the parentheses, I will write the text of the positive button, yes, and I'll add a click listener to this yes button as well. Now when the user clicks on yes, I'll write down what I want to do, and then after that I'll just write here dot show. And then what that does is it shows the dialog message. Oh, and lastly, I will write alert dialog dot create. So that should be pretty clear. It's a few steps, but I hope you understood. I created the alert dialog here, and I defined the title here, and defined the message here, and defined the yes button here, and then added a click button to this yes button. Now also, I defined the no button here and added a click listener in the same way. And I added here the show and writing alert dialog dot create. Alert dialog is now ready. So after that, I'll need to specify what will happen when the user clicks on no, right? So when the user clicks no, the alert dialog will be closed. So what will I do? I'll write here dialog.cancel. So also I'll need to specify what will happen when the user clicks yes. When the user clicks yes, text of the text view will be deleted. So we defined this text view before. Its name was result. And now I'll just write it here. Result.setText. And I won't write anything inside the quotation marks. And that way the text will be deleted. So why don't we have a look? Let's run it and see. Applications open, and when I click the delete button, the alert dialog opens. And let's see what happens if I click no. The alert dialog is closed. If I click yes, it deletes the text. Great, so this is a fairly simple but accurate example of two buttons for the alert dialog. So there are other types of dialog messages. We learned this type, and we will see some other types in the next upcoming videos. So I'm excited. I hope you are too. I'll see you in the next video. Constraint layout. Hello, everyone. This is the video where we're going to talk about constraint layout. So as you know, I mentioned about the constraint layout in some of the previous videos, but I didn't really give you much information because I wanted to make a separate video on this topic after you learned a few of the skills. So the constraint layout has appeared with Android 3.0, and the constraint layout is an advanced model of the relative layout. Now, if you remember the relative layout, the components can take places according to each other's positions or relative to each other's positions. But there could arise some problems with different screen sizes. So we won't be able to, get the full performance for different screen sizes in that relative layout. But with the constraint layout, we will not have that type of problem. In the constraint layout, components can take place according to each other's positions and screen edges. So that way, these are the features that solve most of those problems and give us some flexibility in order to create different views for different applications on different devices. The constraint layout is a basic layout in Android Studio 3.0 and higher versions. So before any more delay, let's get to Android Studio and see constraint layouts in practice. So of course we have this project from before and we're continuing to build on it. So there's something that I want to show you in this project. So you can see here the main activity layout is linear layout. And now I want to show you how you can change this linear layout to the constraint layout. So I'll go to the XML code of this activity and delete linear layout. And then after that, I'll just write constraint layout. And that's it. Now we have a constraint layout. So also I want to show you that when you open a new project or a new activity, the constraint layout will be the basic layout. So I will create a new activity. And also you can see how to create a new activity. So first, I'll just click the app folder, and I will go to the File, New, Activity, and choose Empty Activity. And then, of course, this will create another activity like the main activity. Now, I need to give it a name. Android Studio gave it main2 activity automatically, but I think I can change that. I'll give it a name, constraint layout. That way we remember our path. And this is just the activity name. It doesn't affect the activity layout type, right? Also, I'm going to click the launcher activity. So when I run the application, this activity will be open first. And I'll just click Finish. Now Android Studio will create a new activity for me. And what you see here in this activity is the constraint layout is the basic activity. So how'd that happen? How does Android Studio use the constraint layout as its basic? Because constraint layout is way more useful with the different screen sizes. Of course, you can choose whatever layout you want to work on, but if you learn how to work with constraint layout, you will not want to work with any of the other layouts. It also depends on what type of application you're going to develop. So I will add a new button on the activity. When I add this button on the activity, Android Studio gives me a warning. This view is not constrained vertically. So what does that mean? When I add a new component on the activity, I'll need to give it constrained values. So if I run this application, this button will take a 0 position vertically. So let's run the application and see where this button takes its position. I put this button here, but will it stay in the same position? And so you can see when the application is opened, the button went to the 0, 0 position. So the reason for this is I did not define the constraints for this button. I wanted to show it to you, right? So it'll be the same for the other activity. In the main activity, I changed the linear layout to the constraint layout, but I did not define constraints. So because of this, when I run this activity, everything will take the 0, 0 position. So what if I want to define these constraints? How do I define the constraints? I definitely want to define the constraints, right? So in the constraint layout, we'll just have to give at least 2 positions vertically and horizontally for every item. And I'll do it like this. So for example, if I want to give a position for the left side, I will click the left side of the button and drag it to the left edge of the screen. And this will give the position for horizontal. I'll do the same for the vertical. And now this button is bonded to both sides. So now I can drag this button wherever I want, and when I drop it here, it will take a position from the top 180 dp and left 132 dp. So let's run it again and see what will happen. So the application opens, and what you see here is it takes its position. So also I can put this button in the center position. I'll just right-click on this button and choose Center horizontally or vertically. And I'll choose horizontal, but it does not take the center position because I need to delete the constraint. So after I delete the constraint, it takes the center position. Now, even if I give it a left and right position, it needs a top or bottom position. Android Studio gives us a warning because if I run an application like this, the button will jump to the 0 position vertically. So let's run it again. So you see when I click this run icon, the button takes place center horizontally, but takes the 0 position vertically. Now if I right-click again on this button and choose center vertically, it will take up its center position. So let's run it again. And you see, it's now in the center. Okay, so how can I delete these constraints? So when I click the edge of the button, it will be deleted. Now I will add constraints for all the sides. Left, right, up, and down. Now there's a quick way to delete all of these constraints. There is an icon here. When I click this icon and click yes, it will delete all of the constraints. And now I'll give 2 sides boundings. And after I bound it, I can drag it everywhere. Okay, so you ready to add another component? Let's do that. I will add a text view, and I put this text view here. So now we have one button and one text view. So I gave constraints for the button, but I didn't give it for the text view. So if I run the application, the text view will jump to 0, 0, right? And as you can see here, text view is now in the start position. Now I can give constraints to the text view horizontally and vertically like this. And I can change sizes like this. But of course, there is another way. So I can give constraints to this text view according to the button. So let's delete this from here, and I will bound this text view to the button. All right, so now text view will keep its distance correlating with the button. Now, what do you suppose the advantage of this is? So when the application runs in different screen sizes, the position will still be kept. And when I drag the button to somewhere, the text view will follow it. And the text view takes the position according to the button. So now I want to show you how this design will be seen on the different screen sizes. You can change the screen types from here. Okay, so for example, I use 5 ink, 1080 by 1920, 420 dpi pixel screen, and I'll change 5.5 ink screen size. And now look at my design. Look at how that's seen. And you can see it here. Even though I change the screen size, it keeps the distance. And if I choose a tablet screen, it'll be seen like this. And you see that? So the constraint layout keeps the position of everything in the different screen sizes. Oh, and also, if I click the constraint layout and click this icon, it'll delete all the constraints. So if I run this application, the button and the text view will jump to the 0, 0 position. And you can see here the text view is behind the button. So let me add another text view. And now we have one button and two text views, and all of them are in different positions because I did not give them any constraints. So if I run this design, all of them will jump to the start position. Now, let me show you an easy way to give these constraints all together. So there's a button here. Yeah, it looks like a magic stick, all right. Now, if I click this button, Android Studio will take care of all the constraints automatically. I don't need to regulate it myself. So let's run it again and see what will happen. And what do you see here? Everything is in the same place. Constraint layout made the design itself automatically. You'll just have to put everything wherever you want and click the magic button. And then after that, the constraint layout will do everything auto-magically. And wow, if I didn't blow your mind, I certainly did mine. I think it's enough. And hey, you don't want to be bored. Let's do something else in the next video. I'll see you then.